We are up and running on everything now. Let's just confirm our streams here. I think so, it's live.
Good, it's good.
Instagram's good. Yep. All right, cool.
Oh, we're matching today.
Hey, we are.
All right, we're up.
We are up.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the 034 Motorsport Zero BS live chat. We're here to discuss all your questions and thoughts about all things Audi, Volkswagen, BMW, and 034 Motorsport. Please enter your questions into the browser comment field of your choice. And I'm Javad Shadzi. This is Nate Stewart. We are prioritizing topical questions, deprioritizing update questions. So if you want to know when something's going to be done or ready, feel free to ask, but we might not get to that. We will save those towards the end if we have time.
Yep.
We don't always have a good answer for you on those things. So yeah, put your questions in. Seen it yet?
Oh, I gotta get over to that page. I haven't got there yet.
Mm-hmm. And as a reminder, we did extend our Memorial Day tuning sale through June 2nd. So if you haven't taken advantage of 10% off all tuning, please do so if you're interested. We've been very pleased at the response. We're doing a lot of tuning right now. A lot of B8 S4, a lot of B9 3.0T tunes going out. A lot of happy customers. So appreciate you participating in that. Looks like we got some questions coming in. Were your lowering springs for the A3 3.2 specifically designed for that platform, or are they also for the 2.0? Can they be used with bilstein B4 dampers, or would you recommend something else? Yeah, the A3 springs are specifically for the 3.2 because that's a heavy motor and it adds quite a bit of weight on the front of the car. So the front springs have to compensate for that. I don't know about the bilstein B4 dampers. I suspect they'll probably work great. There's been other cases where customers have used our springs with the B4 dampers and really liked it. That's not something we've tested or validated, but you know, if they have similar or better performance than the factory dampers are very good on these cars, then I think you'll be happy. Otherwise, we recommend good functioning OEM struts with our springs. We don't have anything aftermarket to recommend. Again, the factory stuff's very good, and our springs, you know, are designed with that in mind. But I would love to do, if we had the time and bandwidth to test some of these other dampers so that we can more confidently answer these kind of questions. But,
yeah, I'm sure there's plenty that'll work great, but it's a not small list and a lot of testing and time that would be needed for those.
Yeah, if the B4 dampers are supposed to be like factory replacement, then I think they would work fine. Is an S3 intercooler good enough for stage 1 on an A3? I'm assuming a factory S3 intercooler.
Yeah, which generation are we talking here?
I mean, let's just say any of them.
Oh, because they changed. They're pretty similar on most of them, actually.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Yeah, I don't know that it's not enough of a difference, honestly. The stock intercoolers are really not very different between the A3 and the S3 on either the 8V, the 8P, or the 8Y. Yeah. So
marginally bigger, but if I were you and I was going to go through all the work of installing an intercooler, I'd want like a substantial upgrade. So
yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot of cheap S3 ones out there because everybody replaces those too. But it's like you said, it's not going to be worth the.
It's not known to be a great upgrade, unfortunately.
Yeah, most of Volkswagen and Audi will reuse intercoolers across all of their platforms. You can get a B9 S4 has the same intercooler as a B9 A4. the A4, they just stick a sheet of plastic over like a third of it. It's kind of crazy, but there's not really a substantial like OEM to OEM upgrade even at those levels.
Yeah. Will you be making a mid muffler delete for the B9.5 S5? I'll be honest, that's not something we're considering right now, but if there was sufficient demand, we could do a ResX for that. Something to think about. Any concerns with the longevity of the DL382 Gen 1 B9 under increased power from stage 1 tune?
No, we haven't seen a single issue on those in years and years of testing. We heavily tracked our very first B9 development car with the tune on both ECU and TCU years ago. And of course, we've been cranking on our new one even more power, and haven't seen a single issue with that.
And many hundreds of customers.
No customer issues. We've been beating the tar out of it. It's when you've got the TCU set up and you're not slipping clutches or anything like that, they hold up very
well. Let's keep like putting the update questions in their own section because they're just clogging up all the questions. Are there rear control arms in development for the B9 platform? Got the fronts and love them. Would like rears to match. The rears on kind of the B8 and B9 era cars are they're a lot of labor. So I think we went through this on the B8, and I think it was like 10 to 15 hours of labor to put in rear arms. You have to drop the whole rear subframe.
Subframe, and I think the diff comes with it, right? Yeah. I'm trying to think, there was something else I thought that was kind of a pain to get.
It was a substantial effort, and so we just felt like, given the fact that the rears don't do as much work without the turning.
Yeah, and they've got a way smaller, like tighter bushing already. So unless that's really blown out, which they don't generally go as quickly as the fronts.
Yeah, so the easy part, it's the labor, and so you have to ask yourself, would you want to commit, 2 or 3 days of your own time to changing that? It's a lot of work, like back-breaking work. So I'm not sure if we will. If it was like the fronts and easily replaceable, then sure. 2012 Audi S4 B8 on 034 stock tune. Once every month or once every 2 months, I get a gearbox malfunction.
It is okay to drive.
It is okay to drive error. No loss of gears or significant issues with trans.
I'm not sure what a 034 stock tune is on that. Maybe you mean stage 1 tune, the stock hardware. But the gearbox malfunction, I don't know what that would be. There's a number of things it could be. I would check fault codes. That will tell you exactly what it is versus speculation. But the earlier models of those had a sensor in the shift. It's a shift selector sensor or shift position sensor inside, very deep inside the trans. That's one of the more common faults on those. And those will throw that exact message when they start to go. And generally you can drive for a little while and then all of a sudden you can't. So I would pull the codes, check exactly what your fault is, and go from there. Otherwise we're just guessing.
It could be that they flash to 034 and then flash back to
I'm not sure which tune they're on. Either way, that fault will come up whether you're on our tune or not, if there's a fault in the transmission itself.
All right. That's just something that needs to be fixed. That's nothing to do with the tuning.
Yeah, it could be any number of things though. It could be your actual. I've seen the sensor in the actual shift mechanism in the center console start to freak out, and you'll get a similar message with that. So check codes. You should find out pretty quickly what it is.
Oil residue between the turbo inlet and turbo at the bottom. I have a B9.5 S4. I scan on the app and says P0456. Is it the PCV 54,000 miles?
That's an evap code, so unlikely the PCV. PCV. A little oil residue is pretty normal on turbos.
A little bit.
Yeah, that's completely normal. So,
but if you haven't done your PCV, you need to. They all will fail.
Yep. And honestly, that evap code you're getting might be related to the PCV. If the PCV is starting to fail, your vacuum regulation will be all over the place.
How long does it take to get a data log review back?
They're pretty quick. It depends on the review and if it's an active case or not, or if it's just like a random health check. There's different priorities. Obviously, if someone's having an issue versus just a random like, hey, here's a pull from my log. Everything looks feels good to me, but let me know what you think, kind of thing. So, but generally they've been pretty quick. We have had some people that have taken a log and have not actually submitted it for review. So that's been a thing that's caught a couple of people out. And they've gotten grumpy with us saying, "Hey, yeah, I submitted a review over like 10 days ago. You don't get back to me." And we found out they never actually submitted the log for review. So make sure you can confirm that. Go to your settings section in your app, go to the data logs, and you'll see all of your logs there. The one you submitted, make sure you click on it, and it shows that it has a submitted date. If it doesn't, make sure you submit it, and we'll take a look as soon as we can.
I recently took my stage 1 B8 S4 to the track and ran on 11.33. As far as I could find, the fastest pass was 11.51. Would that mean I hold the new record?
That is cooking for a stage 1.
Yeah, that's fast.
Yeah. I honestly don't know on stage 1. That's got to be up.
There should be a list.
Yeah,
Where's that kept? Don't we? I think we.
There was a bit. I'm trying to think if it lists out. Yeah, should all. It's probably not just
Let's say
a lot of the stage 1 guys don't post either on that list because that's all usually like the fastest of the fastest people want to post there.
I would say email social@034motorsport.
Yeah, we'll do that for you.
Yeah, and we can confirm.
Yeah, that's cooking on stage 1.
I know our marketing team does manage a couple lists in some of the groups.
And the fact that you went and did it on track too is even more impressive. That's usually a tougher place to get a solid time on those cars. It's not in the dead of night on a cold, optimal DA situation.
Yeah, that's quick. I remember when we set the record with a what?
Oh gosh, yeah, in like 2015. That was 11.5.
That was an 11.5.
Yeah,
on Westlake tires.
On Westlake tires, full interior. Just, stage 1.
That's fast. Stage 3 on B9, A4, A5 potential power numbers. We see you listed the hybrid turbo on the site.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we can't say, but I figure the turbo is good for about 400 to 450 horsepower range at the crank. So I think it's possible on E85, we could end up with something like that.
Yeah, we'll see. But it's certainly putting out more power than stock. We've had some very promising results so far.
Yeah. And again, those are crank numbers.
Yep.
Estimated crank.
Yep.
Is a tune necessary for a high flow CAD on the B9.5 3.0? Looking for more sound without tune. Already running the Res X. Yeah, you will need a tune. Otherwise, you'll get a check engine light. But other than that, I mean, the car should run okay.
Yeah, again, like normally the cat's not for just sound, though. That's for racing situations. But yeah, you will need a tune.
Yeah, and you're not supposed to tamper with the CAD unless it's a sanctioned racing series. But the car will run without a tune.
You'll get fault codes, and obviously it won't run correctly. Yes.
I mean, it won't run that incorrectly, will it?
The engine will operate fine. It's just going to be you'll get fault codes, and you'll get
the power output.
The power affected.
Can we get a large numerical readout for the gear indicator gauge in the app?
That's actually one of the things. Yeah, we're going to be revising some app stuff soon. Doing a large digit digit gauge is one of the things I want to get on there. Yes, it's been on my wish list for a bit.
Mm-hmm. Are you able to tune a 2024 GLI locked ECU?
Usually, yes. It depends exactly what generation and what version SFD stuff you're running. So we'd have to check. The SFD locked cars are still kind of a pain for everyone. So we would have to kind of test that out. And you hit up Tuning At. We can kind of walk you through some of the potential options for you.
Mm-hmm. Any shop cars using the revised TTE 810 Plus, will there be any tunes specific to it or not that much of a difference? Yeah, so the new TTE 810 Plus is aerodynamically, from a power and performance standpoint, the same. There was just some updates in the bearing section to address a mode of failure that was being seen previously. So no, there will be no specific tune for that turbo. It doesn't operate in. It's just going to be more reliable long term for more people. I think the amount of failures that we've seen on A10, which we have a lot of data points, was pretty low before.
Yeah.
But it'll be further reduced with the update. So no, nothing. But there are some fun and interesting things coming for that A10 turbo, and we are currently working on those. So you'll know more in the future. But yeah, good stuff coming. Anything in the works for a new forged wheel offering? Not a new design, but we are working on getting multiple colors in stock, like we have with our flow formed wheels. So that'll be the next thing coming for that. The guy with the log question says,
he went and checked and found out he hadn't actually submitted the log yet. So yeah, make sure you just confirm if you hadn't heard back from us, the log has been submitted. That way can't take a look at it until we see it.
Yeah, and you can always email tuning@034motorsport.com if you have any other questions or you're not hearing back or whatever. Sometimes emails do get lost and things like that.
Yeah, we track it pretty tightly, but I think we were like a couple hour response time has been pretty typical these days. Not necessarily for log review, but just from a general inquiry standpoint and in a tuning support standpoint.
Looking to sell my B8.5 S4 for a CREC A6. Should I sell my car with the 034 tune on? And if not, can I get a credit for the A6 tune from you all? Now, you need to sell the tune with the car. Our tunes are locked to the VIN. And so if you can... I mean, in an ideal scenario, you'd come up with a price for the car and then say, and I'll throw in the tune for an extra whatever. But it is a selling point. So if you ever have any questions, you can email us, and we'll do our best to help out. But in general, the industry standpoint is that the tune goes with the car.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, there's other cases where there's another question here that was like someone saying that they totaled their car and and wanted to get credit. And we do have, if insurance totals my car, is the tune transferable? So yeah, again, tunes are locked to the VIN. However, in those kind of instances where there's like a tragic element, we do have a tune transfer program for situations like that. And so the idea is that, the car was totaled out, insurance isn't necessarily going to pay you for the tune, and you're going to replace the car. So we would like to help you get the tune from that ECU to the other. So you can always email sales@034motorsport.com to inquire about that. What mods would be necessary before a stage 1 tune on a 2017 Audi A6 3.0T supercharged? Well, you wouldn't need any mods for a stage 1 tune. Almost always stage 1 tunes are designed to put on a stock car. With that said, you would benefit from, our intercooler upgrade and our high flow intake, like our S34.
Yeah, intercooler is huge on those. That's really the first thing you want to look at, or heat exchanger on those in particular.
Yeah, the heat exchanger and intake will, help you realize more power and performance from the tune. But beyond that, you just want to make sure the car is in good mechanical health. You have good, clean injectors. Your intercooler cores aren't leaking. Your stock caps aren't clogged or anything like that. Those are kind of the big things. Make sure your water pump. I know the CRECs.
CRECs, yeah, the water pump. I mean, the supercharger clutch can be, depending on some cars, can throw issues, but we have a fix for that. No, overall, they're solid.
Yeah, you're gonna love the CREC. Great,
CREC's an awesome motor for that. It's really a pretty good suite of updates it got compared to the earlier motors.
3.0T supercharged. Should I jump straight to stage 2 plus dual pulley, or should I go stage 1 first?
Oh, I would work it up. There's no reason to jump all the way to the top. You can incrementally step up. You can buy, like, what you can do is if you want to buy the software on sale or whatever, you can buy the stage 2 software now. That gets you all of the stages up to that point. So if you know you're going to go there anyway, you can just go ahead and buy that software as it stands now, and then get all your mods in place and work your way up through. It just makes it a nice, easy progression. You kind of feel each mod as they go.
Yeah, I really recommend working your way up as well. Every stage is a new level of fun and excitement to experience. If you go straight to 2 plus, you're just kind of blow your wallet.
There's that. There's also these aren't new cars anymore. You want to make sure all the it sounds like it's a stock car, so finding any potential weak points. You might have coils that are on their last legs. You might have an injectors or whatever that need addressing. So without knowing anything you've done to the car already, just blanket statement for all this. But I would work my way up and just make sure everything's happy as you go. It's just the flash is only a few minutes per stage update. So
yeah. Are the stock charge pipes worth upgrading on the B9 S4 on stage 1 plus E85 with upgraded intercooler? Definitely not necessary. I remember when the cars first came out, and I reached down and squeezed the plastic pipe. I was like, oh man, these things are going to be problematic, but they really haven't been. They're super chintzy parts, but with that said,
it's surprising what they hold up to.
They're holding up even with big power. So we will be releasing some aluminum pipes in the near future. Again, not needed, but long term, I think the plastic will eventually start having issues, and we have seen some problems with them. So it's up to you, but they don't need to be hugely upgraded in size, although ours will be bigger, because why not? I hear some companies have cracked the A8 S3 TCU. When can we expect availability from 034? I haven't heard that.
I mean, we not the latest one. I haven't seen that yet. We've had tunes for the A8 S3 TCU since we released any of our software. So we've got a lot of tunes for that, but it's not the latest generation of the bootloader on that.
But I've heard so many times that someone has cracked it and they haven't.
No, they're doing mech swaps with the earlier units.
So if you're swapping the whole mech, that's a different story. But that doesn't mean they've cracked it. It just means that
they have an alternative.
You're putting in the older version in the car, which has been cracked. So, there's a number of companies that release that, and that's something we're working on doing as well. And right now, it's a good solution until TCU gets cracked, and we don't know when nobody knows when that's going to be. When will you make an X34 intake for the C7 RS6 and RS7 owners? I think it just needs slightly larger diameter silicone intake hoses. C7, we'll have to look at that. We're kind of in C8 world right now.
We looked at those. The RS7 box is pretty darn good on those, or the RS6.
Oh god. Okay. Well, no, we did actually do developments on this. 8 years ago?
Yeah, until you get into ridiculous power level stuff, the stock box is actually pretty solid.
Yeah, it's true. In fact, going back, we actually flowed the various intakes, and the stock intake flowed better than several aftermarket options that were on the market.
And the stock one beat a lot of aftermarkets. The RS7 one beat all of the aftermarkets.
Yes, which is basically the stock one with a hole in it.
It's a stock one with a factory port on the side of it and some screens in it. So it was if you want a performance mod, those aftermarket intakes were not what you
wanted. So Nate's right. If you our stock turbo, there's no need to upgrade the intake. You can do the RS7 or do the mod that the RS7 has. But it's a very, very high flowing intake, and we actually opted not to bring anything to market.
Yep.
At that time. For spherical bushings, any tips or oil lube I should use to make them last longer when it goes bad? How will I know? No, all of the sphericals that we use are Teflon lined, and they're not. No oil or lube is needed. It should not be put on them.
Yeah, it can actually make it worse.
Yeah.
It'll actually hold the dirt and grime to
Right.
the surface, and then it just kind of gets like smushed under the material.
I would say in general, trying to keep them clean and out of kind of dirty, dusty, muddy environments is a good idea. I suppose if you drive down like a dirt road and cover the bottom of your car in dust, you could try spraying everything down.
Yeah, I mean, we have boots for them. That's the biggest solution we have for that.
That's right. So putting the rubber boots over them is the best option if available.
Yep.
When they go bad, you'll know because at first they'll get real loose. So when they're new, you can barely move a spherical bushing by hand. Like if you stuck a bolt in it, like a rod end, and you could just barely maybe move it. When they get loose, they'll just be floppy. You can just spin them with your finger. So after that, they'll start rattling and making kind of clacking noises. And at that point, they're still working and they're not dangerous. But that's when you want to replace them because they now have play. And
it takes an astonishingly small amount of play for them to start making some noise.
Yeah.
Too. So it's not like they're falling apart thing. There just is any movement in there now at all, and you'll hear it.
Yeah, you'd be surprised if you can't feel the movement with your fingers, but it can make all kinds of noise because the forces are so much higher. So, yeah, but they do wear and they do replace. We offer pretty much rebuild kits for everything on our website, and we price those pretty cheaply. As far as like we make less money on selling those replacement parts because it's a service to support our customers. So we try to make it real affordable to do. My 21 S4 is currently running Stage 1 ECU TCU, and I've recently ordered Stage 2 TCU, but haven't flashed it yet. My current mileage is 50,000. Would you recommend to do the trans service first, then tune it?
Doesn't really matter. We do recommend doing the trans tune. I would say usually at the 40 to 50,000 mile mark anyway. So you're at that
service.
I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
trans service.
Yeah.
The tune doesn't necessarily put any more load on the trans. As far as like the fluids and whatnot, you're not going to have any more slip or temperatures or anything like that. So that's not really a factor. But you're at that point now where I would do the service. But no, you can load the tune now, and it won't really be any different from you need a service anyway standpoint.
Yeah, the feel and performance of the tune is different, but it's not harder on the transmission.
Right.
So you want to do the service anyways. Yep. But you can run whatever file you want. They're not related to each other.
Transmissions are interesting because generally the spicier the tune, the more aggressive obviously to a point they are, the lower the temps generally are in the transmission because you're slipping the clutches less. All of your engagements are quicker. If you're running the pressures a lot higher, you get a little bit more thermal energy put into the fluid just from the pumps working harder. But in general, like a quick, like harsh transmission tune is almost better for the fluids and things. Maybe not for the rest of the systems or your perception of how it's driving. Tuned transmissions are generally not going to be a higher wear or heavier wear load on all of the components. Usually the opposite.
Can I run burbles with Stage 1 on B9 S4 with intake and aftermarket catback with stock cats?
Yep. They're generally turned on stock. So yes, we don't alter the methods or the safety parameters around how they're turned on.
Thoughts on running Stage 2 on an 8V Audi A3 without an intercooler? I mean, we talked about this, I think, last week. Can you? Yes. Should you? Not really. Do you want to? No. But If you need to just drive around for a while you're saving up for an intercooler or whatever, you absolutely can. You're just going to want to be very careful with, long acceleration pulls, banging gears one after the other. The more time you're on boost, the longer the heat soak, the intercooler will heat soak. And that's not particularly good for your motor. Our tuning does have protection, so it will dial back the boost and load as things get really hot. So you'll feel the power and performance drop off. So if you want to go stock intercoolers, it's the kind of thing you can like kind of squirt through one gear at a time, and then give the intercooler 30 seconds to cool off, and then you can do another one. But if you want to get the most out of the tune, most out of the power, stock intercooler is not it. So it's just kind of like saying, can I run a 5K in penny loafers? It's like, well, you can, but you should probably run slower and be careful. It's not a running shoe. Can you run in it? Yeah. Do you want to? Not really.
I always liked watching the people at like Yosemite going like up all
with flip flops.
Yeah, like flip flops going up all the waterfall trails and stuff. It's like,
I literally
can do it, but your foot's going to be destroyed if anything doesn't go right.
I've seen so many people like doing like 15-mile day hikes and like flip flops. Not even running. I mean, I wouldn't even do it in running shoes, but
they're like
they're
like broken at the end of the day.
Yeah, I just don't get it. There should be a sign. Even in hiking boots, it's a grueling hike.
Or they're out there with like no water 10 miles in with like garbage footwear. It's like just be prepared for what you're looking to do.
So or just same goes for cars. A bucket of KFC and flip flops on 15-mile hike. Just recently did stage 2 for B9 for RS5 and haven't explored much of the 0304 app, but does it have car programming functions similar to what we can do with VCDS?
The typical stuff. We have a number of tools in the toolbox, so it depends on what you mean by functions from VCDS that you're using. We don't do things like the soft coding or any of the module recoding stuff like a lot of people do in VCDS, but we do let you do, obviously, fault code stuff is a big one. Data logging, obviously, but we have a number of toolbox options in there for the more common functions like throttle body adaptation, fuel tank pump out, a bunch of other, on some transmissions, we can do all the adaptation fields for the transmissions. So we have a lot of the functional tools that we feel are needed to, keep the vehicle maintained and good running order and compatible with all of our whatever mods and stuff. If you do throttle body swaps, obviously you got to do throttle body adaptations afterwards, so that kind of stuff. So we try and make sure all of that tool work is in there.
So the stuff that you will need.
Yeah.
Is the Wagner intercooler the best intercooler on the market?
Which market?
Yeah, I mean, you don't list an application, but I will say, I will give a plug for Wagner intercoolers.
Yeah.
Across the board, they have good products with good performance. It's why we continue to sell Wagner products on our site. If you go on our site, you'll see we have very few third-party products that we sell. Our goal is always to either not do the part because it's bullshit, it doesn't do anything, or to do our own version of it. But when it comes to companies like Wagner, they're already doing it so well, and we feel good about offering and selling those products to our customers. So in general, I would say the Wagner products are great. I think there are, if you look to certain applications, there's maybe one company that's doing one thing better than they are in that one thing. But across the board, Wagner does things very well. And again, we continue to support them because it's a quality product that works. We really like their use of the tube and fin intercoolers as well. Most aftermarket is bar and plate, which are, I've talked a lot about that on this, the benefits of tube and fin over bar and plate. So, you get a lighter, faster reacting core, and that's why the factory uses tube and fin as well.
Yep. And we're on the road course a lot with these cars, so it holds up a lot better. Excuse me, than the bar and plate stuff.
Mm-hmm. When are you guys coming out with tuning software for the Mark 8.5 GTI?
As soon as we can. Those are a whole nother level of. You thank Volkswagen for more and more changes to the way they're implementing some of these ECUs. So it's a similar problem across the board with the 8.5s, all the late 3-liter stuff, 2.9s. Everything's changing the way they're doing all the encryptions again. So everyone's hitting the same roadblocks.
Can you guys tune a 2010 Audi A3 2.0T FSI CCTA? We would need you to provide box codes to confirm that. So if you want to shoot an email to sales@034motorsport.com or tuning@034motorsport.com, we'd be happy to assist you without the box codes.
Yeah, we have a lot of good coverage for the CCTA though, so chances are good we've got something.
Ordered high pressure fuel pump internals from y'all. Can't wait to test it. Wonderful. Good news, you won't have to test anything, but it's a well tested product. Yeah, no, it'll give you that extra fuel flow you're looking for. Thinking about ultimately B9 S4 Stage 3 tune. I presume the vehicle won't pass California smog as it won't display readiness. Any chance of tune low emissions tune to help low boost? Blah blah blah. Okay, so. You won't be able to pass smog without all factory components and the factory tune.
Yep.
Basically, a bone stock car from an engine standpoint. And so, in general, even in California now, they will scan the ECU to make sure that the checksums match.
They're checking as the calibration verification number to make sure it matches up, and any tune on there. Will not, pass that. Now, all of our tunes will run clean and will run the same, all of the same factory controls and all that would be in place for the components. So there wouldn't be any emissions change coming out the tailpipes in any way. But the fact that the calibration itself has changed, that's what would raise those.
Yeah, to confirm what Nate said. All of our tunes are low emissions tunes. We do not add any emissions. That's not needed to make the power. If you have stock injectors and a stock tune and the factory cat, you should probably be able to pass a smog test. So that's something to keep in mind. Thanks for the software for my Q5. It runs so good. Great to hear. Had great feedback on the 2.0T B9 tunes. Planning on picking up the dog bone mount insert for my 24 Mark 8 Golf R. Can I install this on race ramps, or do I need to do so with the car level? P.S. The stage 1 full torque tune is... Oh, and the end was cut off.
Yeah, it's gone.
It was supposed to be
Is it
amazing?
amazing?
It's got the it's perfect.
It's this. All right, wonderful. I think you can do it on race ramps. There's no issue with the car being angled or not level. You just want, in general, the weight of the car on the suspension when you tighten everything.
Yeah, a lot of the guys will use like a pry bar just to be able to rock the motor assembly back and forth a little bit to get everything lined up and all of the preload off that mount. If they're doing inserts, but it shouldn't matter if you're on range or not.
Yeah, actually,
make sure though. Your emergency brake is set. You've got wheels chalked. You don't want your drive wheels, your transmission like in park and it loaded up against the pin, and then you're taking that dog bone mount out, because then that will rack the motor and stuff back if you've got it preloaded.
Since we're on the topic, and maybe we can clip this out. I've been wanting to mention this, that recently I had a good friend who was killed working on his car.
Seriously?
Yeah. It's something you always think about, when you get under a car that's sitting on jack stands. I've been there a million times. And it's always kind of in the back of your head, like, what if this thing fell? What if I didn't add enough jack stands? What if I used the wrong, point for a jack stand or whatever? And so he was underneath his truck. and I don't know all the details, but his truck rolled back and he was killed underneath the car. Super tragic. Young guy in his 30s, just got married. Was a great guy, obviously. But just something for you guys to keep in mind. If you ever have any question about whether your car is secure on jack stands, don't get under it. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you should be able to put like a pretty substantial amount of force every direction on the vehicle, and it shouldn't budge. Like you want to be overly safe with this stuff. I always, when even if I'm on jack stands, I also always have, like, if I'm taking wheels off, they go immediately under the car.
Yes.
It's an extra platform for it to land on. Just
Yep.
you may still get stuck there if it comes down on anything, if some of the worst happens, but you've got
That's a good point.
8, 9, 10 inches extra of like space to live on, like survive until the next day kind of thing. So yeah, it's no joke. Gravity is not forgiving, and it won't take much for you to get stuck under there.
Redundancy is really important. Never rely on one jack stand. Just add 2 or 3 or 6 if you need to. And like Nate said, you should be able to push on the car pretty hard and have it be stable. If it's unstable at all, it's going to possibly cost you your life. So just want to put that out there for anyone who's about to get under their car. It's nothing to play with, nothing to joke around about, nothing to do poorly. So just buy more jack stands if you need, buy heavier duty ones, put your wheels and tires under the car, have your hydraulic jack also just there just in case.
Everything,
all the protection,
everything that isn't squishy and living.
Yes, be safe out there, everyone. It's the weekly pulley ratio question. What's the best pulley ratio that prevents heat soak for a B8.5 3.0 platform?
The lowest pulley ratio possible that accomplishes what you're looking for. So it's just it's the higher the ratio, the more heat you're going to make. So if your goal is to keep that heat down and you want consistency as much as possible, then you run as low a pulley as you can. That keeps keeps the power where you want it.
Yeah. With that said, we generally recommend a certain ratio for kind of the best point of efficiency and power, given the cooling upgrades available.
Yep.
What's that?
Again, they just listed it in general. Someone else was asking what the best pulley ratio for 2+. Oh yeah, here. Yeah, slightly different. It's fine to run a stock lower crank pulley in 57 up. On 2+ for the best temps and overall performance. No, that's a little different. That would just be a stage 2 file. There's no benefit to go to 2+ on those. But yeah, generally for a 2+, I would stick with it'd be just the 190 or the 179 lower and our upper is what I would say would be a good, like your best thermal performing setup. Obviously better than that would be stage 2. Better than that would be stage 1. If you're looking for like the least air intake, hit. But no, the 2+ with I can't remember the ratio off the top of my head, but the 179 57 upper or the 190 lower only is a good solid all around performer. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of pulley questions I can't see.
I heard you can run a stage 2+ with just your 190 crank pulley.
Yes,
that's true.
Yep. Why isn't it listed on your tuning page? I think it is. All of the stage tuning stuff is generally based on pulley ratio, and we've come out with different pulleys here and there for allowing people to kind of really dial in the ratio they're looking for. But it's just a mathematic, bottom pulley diameter divided by top pulley diameter is your ratio.
Yep. I'm considering to buy a stage 1 and trans for an SQ5 2018 next month. We'll combine it with the super duper intake. Would I be able to set the car to stock settings when I decide to sell it? Because maybe the next owner might not like tune cars.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just all of our tunes. You can go back to stock.
100% stock. Yep.
With that said, I think most people would get a real kick out of a stage 1 file on any of these Audis.
Yeah, you can always sell it stock or with a stock tune and say, hey, if you want, you can.
I've just never met anyone who was like, I didn't like driving it with stage 1. Maybe they don't want to spend the money to do it or whatever, but as far as getting it, you're gonna like it. So we've talked a lot about catch cans over the years, but someone's saying catch cans, real benefits are all hype. When we do catch cans, our goal is never to have it be a hype product. Our catch cans always do something, have a purpose. That's what our kind of motto of substance performance means, is that the parts will perform in a substantive way like we say they will, and like physics and the circumstances will verify that our product does the thing that it's supposed to do. In general, factory breather system, PCV systems, have issues. Sometimes they have failure-prone components, like check valves, typically in either the hoses, like on the B9, or in the breather units themselves, will be failure-prone. In most cases, there's oil that is expelled out of the crankcase into the PCV system, which then gets sucked into the intake and ingested by the motor. And so those are real problems, real issues. These become especially aggravated on a racetrack, where the cornering speeds and loads are much higher than you see on the street even. And in that case, catch cans are very important for catching that oil that's being expelled out of the crankcase and routing it back to the crankcase through the catch can system. So they're each kind of model motor that comes out has its own unique set of circumstances, and we could talk about all the EA888s from Gen 1 to Gen 4 all have their own kind of little issues and idiosyncrasies that need to be addressed. The B9 cars have different things than the B8s, going back to, we have breather stuff and catch cans for going back to, Mark IV era and Audi A4 era cars. So there is a lot of hype out there in the marketplace. There are companies that sell things that either don't do what they say or just are not needed. We try really hard to rise above that, and again, our products, we always strive them to have substance. And if you read each product page for each catch can, you'll see what we say about that application and how the product addresses those issues. Will you ever revise the TT A1093 tune? And I know it's on our list.
Yep. Yeah, we have a whole slew of updates coming for the B9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we will update it. Don't have a date on it. Wow, it's tune transfer day.
I know, it's crazy the number that are coming through.
I bought an S4 with a 034 tune. How do I transfer that tune to my account so I can get it on my 034 app? You just need to email tuning@034motorsport.com.
Yep. And
congratulations for buying a great car with a great tune on it.
Yeah, if it didn't come with a dongle, you'll have to pick up a the programming flashing dongle interface. And then we'll get you set up with an account.
Mm-hmm.
Tweak and log and check codes and do all the fun things.
Do you have forged connecting rods for ABY engines? We do.
ABY. Oh wow.
We offer a really nice SCAT connecting rod set on our site. That's pretty much what we've been selling for 15 years at least. Sold thousands of those.
Longer than that. Those were like 06, 07, I want to say, for SCAT stuff.
Yeah, maybe almost 20 years.
Yep.
So yeah, check those out on our site. Great proven option. Really good quality rod at a great price. New to me, USA market, B9 A4 manual. I've already installed your stage 1 tune along with your full control arm kit and flow form wheels. Awesome. It has a fresh 120,000 service with spark plugs, etc. Wondering if it makes sense to replace all the coil packs and or do a carbon clean to make sure it's 100%. Anything else injectors? You can. I don't know how much the injectors are on those.
Yeah, I mean, at 120K, it's probably a good idea.
Yeah. Carbon cleaning doesn't hurt. You can get in there and you can just take the intake manifold off. And
I would inspect first and see how things are looking.
Some of these 4-cylinder motors don't have nearly the problems as other motors. But yeah, it sounds like a great car. Enjoy.
Yeah, you're asking anything else? I mean, the only other thing I would say is, you know, intercooler intake kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We talked about a bunch earlier.
Intercooler, we got intake, motor mounts are problems.
Yes, you have 120K.
We have density mounts for those. So.
Congrats.
Follow up on jack stand talk. What's your thoughts on quick jacks? And those like the hydraulic.
We use them a lot. Yeah, we use them at the track all the time. They're very convenient. Same laws of physics apply. Be very safe with them.
The thing is, you still need redundancy, right? So just because you use a quick jack doesn't mean you shouldn't also stick a jack, 1 or 2 jack stands on it.
Tell you again, wheels and tires.
And the wheel and tire
car. We do that a lot.
Yeah. Anything else you can? That's lame.
It's one of those things like,
cinder block.
What if the car lands on my wheel and scratches my wheel? Well, it's not landing on you. So
better than smashing the shit out of your head.
A gouged wheel or a flat tire, or whatever you want to do, is a heck of a lot better than you getting squished.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the quick jacks are good. But again, I wouldn't just use one of anything. So there should always be some redundancy.
And make sure they have their own setup stuff. But make sure you're flat level. You want to make sure you're in a safe place and a stable place to do any kind of check.
Oh, wheel chocks too, right? If you're
on ramps,
if you've lifted the front of the car, put some wheel chocks under the back of the car. That's just one thing that could prevent it from rolling back if something else fails. And then having the e-brake on, for the back.
A lot. Yeah, I've seen. There's a bunch of videos on Facebook where people will be like under their truck, so working on something. They disconnect the drive shaft, and now the truck just exits the driveway.
Yeah,
and they're because it's in park, and they think the truck's immobilized, but you disconnect the drive shaft. Now the back wheels, nothing's connected to what was holding the vehicle there, and off it goes. So wheel chocks, backups, redundancies, don't die.
Are the Mark 8 GTI tunes compatible with the Mark 8.5 GTI?
So it's dependent on what exact ECU your vehicle got. Generally, there's some overlap, so we always say just contact us. We'll check it out for you. If you can get the part number off your ECU, we will take a look.
2017 Audi TTS 2.0T upgraded turbo and fuel E85. Is it worth upgrading my coil packs? I have stock now. You don't need to. In general, we offer coil packs for cars. Like if you have if you need to replace the coils, ours are a great option. But you don't need to go out of your way to do it. So it's really up to you. 800 horsepower Gen 1 R8 V10.
Heck yeah.
With a VF supercharger. The car is too loose even with all-wheel drive. Any recommendations on tires for road use? Even though the R8 is all-wheel drive, it's heavily rear biased, which makes it great. But yeah, you're going to want to go with stickier tires.
Big sticky
tires. You can technically run our compound tires on the street, and if you're not worried about a lot of rain, that's something I would consider doing. Michelin has great sticky tires. I don't know what's popular with our compound tires these days, but yeah, the lower the tread wear rating, the stickier the tire, the better. And you can always swap wheels and tires too if you can stay off the power, but you just have a lot of power. So something to consider would be, trying to turn down the power a little bit. Maybe you could still live with like 700 horsepower.
And all these ECUs also have gear-based torque limits you can set.
If there was that.
Depending on how the calibration's done and what's being handled. But you can set up, per gear power levels pretty easily with these.
And that's what we do in many of our tunes to help with that. But congratulations, good problem.
Yeah.
2021 B9.5 SQ5. Should I do an intercooler first or stage 1 first in hot Florida climate?
Ooh.
Well, I think you need to either do the tune and the intercooler or just the intercooler. But doing the tune without the intercooler, again, you would have to just drive slowly and not get on the power too much. But the intercooler with the tune is going to give you your best result. So if you're limited in some way, then you could do the intercooler first and then do the tune when you have that. I mean, you don't need intercooler for stage 1 either.
Yeah. No, it'll work fine. It's just we're talking optimal versus
Yeah, no, you could, but like I said earlier, you could just do the tune, but you're gonna have to keep in mind that the ECU is gonna pull back power when things start getting. So the question is: the AC program to be disabled with the tune?
That would be terrible. There are some parameters in there where, under like full load situations, that we sometimes. I think this was B9 related. I'd have to look specifically on that file to see if it moved at all. But on some vehicles, we will shut down the compressor on a full load pull or a full wide open throttle pull, just like they do with a lot of factory programs as well. So it depends, but no, in general, the AC will work just like it did stock.
B9 S5 got brake pad wear sensor alarm. Turns out one of those sensor wires broke. At the same time, I started getting parking brake alarms, and also the adaptive cruise won't work. Is this all related?
It's probably related. I would assume if you got any braking system faults, it's probably going to shut down a lot of the assisted driving for you.
Yeah. Wow, we really got through the questions this week, huh?
A few of them knocked out. There were quite a few just asking for updates on things that we've talked about.
Someone's asking for BMW X3M stuff. Those are great cars, definitely. Something we would be interested in doing on the BMW side. Those things make a lot of power stuff. Is DL382 working on an oil cooler for the B9 S5 Sportback? Is it needed at all, considering that you guys have the DL382 radiator, auxiliary side radiator? We are working on some oil cooler options for these cars. The idea is to take some of the heat load out of the cooling system and deal with it outside the cooling system. This would also help with coolant temps as well. So it's just part of our cooling system upgrade effort. So yeah, keep your eye out for something like that in the future. We're almost out of time. We have time for one more. Hey guys, B8 SQ5 Stage 2 Plus ECU TCU with all the extras, including the internals. Damn. Will this push the torque values beyond the transmission limits?
No, not that we've seen on those. You're still. I mean, it's you've got basically the most optimized version, you could say. Assuming you've got cams as well, if that's what you're talking about with internals. But the overall torque output is heavily driven by your power output, so your supercharger or your turbo. So you're not making like another 300 foot-pounds of torque or anything like that. So no, you'll be totally fine. We have not had any issues with those transmissions at any of these power levels we've run through.
All right, guys, I think we're out of time.
Yep.
And I think we got through all the questions. So.
We got through a large chunk. Like I said, not all the update stuff obviously made it in. There's a bunch of just asking when things are going to release or happen. So,
all right, cheers, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.
Yep. Take care. Oh, my laptop's not. Here we go. I got this.